Nathan had always imagined betrayal as something loud, something chaotic, screaming matches, slammed doors, shattered glass. But standing in the dimly lit living room, facing Selena's cold, indifferent gaze, he realized just how wrong he had been. Infidelity didn't always arrive in flames. Sometimes, it slipped in quietly, wrapped in indifference, and burned you from the inside out. I cheated because I needed a real man. The words fell from her lips like a guillotine, clean and absolute, severing the past from the present. Nathan almost laughed, not because it was funny. Nothing about this was funny, but because of the sheer absurdity. A real man? What the hell did that even mean? Physically? Financially? Emotionally? Hadn't he spent years breaking himself to provide for her? Then came the second, deeper betrayal, her mother's voice, laced with condescension. Can you blame her? Her father, shaking his head in disapproval. A real man would have seen the signs. Nathan's stomach curled. They weren't defending her, they were blaming him. Clarity struck like a blade. This wasn't his wife anymore. This was a stranger wearing her face. And suddenly, he knew exactly what to do. Their love had once been an inferno, wild, consuming, untamed. Nathan could still remember the way Selena had once craved him, pulled him in with breathless whispers and hungry hands. The way their bodies had fit together like they were designed for each other. A symphony of heat and need. Their passion had been their language. Spoken in tangled sheets, stolen kisses in dimly lit hallways. The desperate way she used to clutch at him like she'd never get enough. But somewhere along the way, the fire dimmed. At first, he didn't notice it, brushing off the small shifts, the nights she turned away from his touch. The quick, dismissive kisses, the way her eyes no longer lingered on him when he stepped out of the shower. He had been so focused on providing for them, so determined to build a future, that he hadn't realized he was losing her in the present. He convinced himself it was normal. Love matures, passion settles, the mindless hunger of early love made way for something deeper, something steady. He thought she understood that. But Selena hadn't wanted steady. She hadn't wanted security. She had wanted chaos, temptation, the thrill of the forbidden. So she had found Damon Blackwell, not a man who would cherish her, but a man who would take her. Rough, unapologetic, the kind of man she now claimed she needed. And that realization? That cut deeper than the betrayal itself. Damon Blackwell was everything Nathan wasn't, at least. That's what Selena had convinced herself. He was reckless, magnetic, the kind of man who took what he wanted without hesitation. He didn't ask, he demanded. He didn't wait, he consumed. And Selena had let herself be devoured. It had started with glances, the kind that lingered just a second too long. The kind that spoke of things neither of them should have wanted. Then came the flirtation, casual at first, then bolder, charged with unspoken promise. A brush of his fingers along her wrist, the slow curl of his smirk when she didn't pull away. And then, the moment she let herself fall. The night she went to him. There had been no hesitation, no guilt, no second thoughts, just the heat of his hands pushing her against the wall. The way his lips claimed her without apology. She had gasped, arched into him, let herself be unmade beneath his touch. His grip had been stronger, his voice rougher, his body demanding in a way Nathan's had never been. And she had loved it, loved the way he took what he wanted, the way he didn't hold back. But lust is a fleeting fire, and when the embers cooled, she realized Damon wasn't her future, he was only a moment. And moments end. What she didn't know yet, what she hadn't even begun to understand, was that Nathan was already slipping beyond her reach. Nathan should have been furious. He should have shouted, thrown something, demanded answers, but instead, he laughed. Not because it was funny, nothing about this was funny, but because, in that moment, everything became so painfully clear. He had spent years pouring himself into this marriage, thinking love was measured in sacrifices, in long hours at the office, in doing everything he could to make sure Selena never had to struggle. And now, she stood before him, arms crossed, her family flanking her like a well-rehearsed jury, telling him, no, convincing themselves, that he had never been enough. He exhaled slowly, shaking his head. They weren't waiting for him to fight. They were waiting for him to break, to beg, to plead for an explanation, for another chance, for her. But that's where they had miscalculated. Nathan had already given everything. And now, he had nothing left to give. So, instead of arguing, instead of defending himself, he did the one thing none of them expected. He turned away. Selena's voice caught in her throat. Wait, you're just leaving? Nathan didn't answer, didn't look back. The moment he walked out that door, he knew, really knew, he would never return. And that's when the panic set in. Not for him, for her. Because in all the time she had been chasing the thrill of another man, she had never once considered what it would feel like to watch the one who truly loved her walk away. Selena had convinced herself she wouldn't regret it. She told herself that Nathan was the past and Damon was the future. That what she had done was justified. That she had chosen excitement over routine, passion over predictability, and for a while, it was easy to believe the lie. Damon was intoxicating, his touch, his dominance, the way he made her feel like the most desirable woman in the world. He was everything Nathan wasn't. Unapologetic, impulsive, thrilling. But then, something changed. The texts from Damon became less frequent. The urgent need in his voice began to fade. The way he once pulled her close, devoured her, owned her, now felt more like an afterthought. One night, as she reached for him, he barely looked up from his phone. Not tonight, he muttered, rolling away. Not tonight. Something cold settled in her stomach. Damon had already moved on. And that's when the full weight of her decision came crashing down. She had sacrificed security for thrill, stability for impulse, a husband who adored her for a man who never planned to keep her. And the worst part? Nathan was gone. No late-night texts, no desperate calls, no anger or resentment, just silence. It was in that suffocating quiet that she realized she had lost the one man who would have fought for her. And now, there was no one left to fight. Nathan didn't drown in grief. He thrived in it. At first, there had been moments, brief flashes of memory. The scent of her perfume on an old sweater. The ghost of her laughter in the silence of their empty home. But he refused to let those thoughts linger. Selena had chosen her path. And now, he would carve his own. So, he built himself anew. The gym became his sanctuary. Every rep, every drop of sweat was a silent promise. He would never let himself be anyone's second choice again. His body hardened, his confidence sharpened, and with each passing day, the version of himself she had taken for granted faded away. Then came the nights, and the women. There was Sophia, the red-lipped temptress at the rooftop bar who left scratches down his back. Then Camilla, the yoga instructor who moaned his name as he pressed her against her apartment wall. And there were others. None of them needed apologies. None of them needed explanations. Nathan didn't love them, but he did love the way they made him feel, desired. In control, untamed. Selena had once thought she was stepping into something better. Now, she was crumbling, while Nathan, he was unrecognizable, stronger, wilder, free. And when the late-night calls from her finally started, he let them ring. Because now, she was the one chasing ghosts. The first call came at midnight. Nathan let it go to voicemail. By the next morning, there were 5 more, then 10, then 20. Selena's name lit up his phone like a desperate beacon. But he didn't answer. He let the silence stretch. Let her sit in the emptiness she had created. She had wanted a real man? Well, real men didn't beg. Then came the texts. At first, they were angry. Ignoring me? That's childish, Nathan. I made a mistake, but you don't have to be an asshole about it. I bet you love this, don't you? Watching me suffer. But when he didn't respond, the tone shifted. I miss you. I didn't know what I had. Please, just talk to me. Nathan smirked, shaking his head. Funny how regret only seemed to find people when consequences finally caught up. She didn't miss him. She missed the security he had provided. She missed the man who had carried her, loved her, given her everything while she threw it all away. Now, she was grasping at nothing, and he refused to be her safety net. So when she sent that final, desperate message, "Nathan, I still love you," he simply blocked her number. And just like that, the last string tethering him to his past was cut. Selena had spent so long chasing a thrill. Now, she would spend forever chasing a ghost. The moment Selena walked into the lounge, she felt it, a shift in the air, a presence that made her pulse stutter. Then she saw him. Nathan. He sat at the bar, effortlessly relaxed, a drink in one hand, the other resting possessively on the thigh of the woman beside him. She was gorgeous, elegant, poised, with a sultry smile that spoke of whispered secrets and tangled sheets. The kind of woman who commanded attention without trying. Jealousy sliced through Selena like a blade. Nathan had changed. The boy she had dismissed had become a man who was untouchable. His once soft edges had sharpened, his confidence no longer quiet but consuming. Everything about him radiated strength, control, desire. Summoning her courage, she approached, her voice barely above a whisper. "Nathan, please, can we talk?" He didn't even flinch. He took his time, finishing his drink, then turned to her with a look so unreadable, so devastatingly indifferent, it knocked the air from her lungs. Then, he leaned in, just close enough for her to hope. "You had me once," he murmured, his lips barely brushing her ear. "You'll never have me again." And then, without another glance, he took his date's hand and walked away. Selena stood frozen, her body burning, her soul hollow. She had once been the one who left Nathan behind. Now, she was the one left standing in the wreckage. Nathan filed for divorce with the same ease as signing a receipt. There was no hesitation, no flicker of doubt. Selena had made her choice. Now, she would live with it. When the court date arrived, she sat across from him, her once defiant eyes now uncertain. She hesitated before signing, her fingers trembling as she gripped the pen. But Nathan? His signature was swift, final. And then came Richard's mistake. Selena's father, the man who had spent years undermining him, the man who had called him weak, lost his temper. He lunged, his fist swinging wildly, desperate to reclaim some illusion of control. But Nathan saw it coming. He sidestepped effortlessly, pivoting with the kind of precision that only comes from knowing your worth. And then, he struck. One clean hit. Richard crumpled. The courtroom hallway fell into silence. Selena gasped, her eyes wide with something close to fear. For the first time, she was seeing the man she had underestimated, the man she had thought was too soft, too safe, too predictable. Nathan looked at her one last time, his expression unreadable, his power undeniable. Then, in the same quiet, controlled tone he had always used, he simply said, "That's how a real man does business." And with that, he turned and walked away, never looking back, never needing to. Because now, he was free, and she was nothing but a lesson learned too late. Nathan didn't just move on, he ascended. He left behind the city that had once held his heartbreak and built a life untouched by the ghosts of his past. Sun-drenched mornings, ocean breeze against his skin, the quiet hum of peace. This was his new reality. No more toxicity, no more proving his worth to people who never saw it. He was his own man now. Then, Olivia Pierce entered his life. She wasn't like Selena. There was no manipulation, no restless craving for something better. Olivia was confident, self-assured, the kind of woman who didn't chase thrills, she built empires. And yet, in her arms, Nathan found something he never had before, a passion that wasn't just heat, but home. Their nights were slow and fevered, bodies moving in a rhythm of desire and understanding. There were no games, no uncertainty, only fire, only need. One evening, as they lay tangled in sheets, Olivia Tr. aced a finger down his chest and whispered, "You're not running from something anymore, are you?" Nathan smiled, pressing a kiss against her shoulder. "No," he murmured, "I finally ran toward something worth having." And that was the real victory. In today's world, self-respect is non-negotiable. Betrayal, whether in relationships or friendships, often comes wrapped in excuses, blame shifting, and manipulation. But the real power isn't in arguing, proving your worth, or seeking closure, it's in walking away. Like Nathan, learn to recognize when a situation no longer serves you. Silence is power, absence is clarity, moving forward is the real victory. If someone undervalues you, let them feel your loss. Build yourself, thrive in your own success, and never settle for less than you deserve. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't revenge, it's happiness they can no longer touch.